Objective 4 in Part 1, factoring a quadratic trinomial using a strategy called MACAB T-chart. I'm going to do number 1 exactly how I want y'all to do 2 through 10 on this sheet. After I model number 1, your goal then, I would need to change this. Max 3 would be 9 out of 9. So that's what you should be shooting for as you work through the final 10 on this page. I'm going to model exactly again utilizing these steps on how I would want to factor this quadratic trinomial. Now before I begin, I do need to talk briefly about what distinguishes this number 1 versus other factoring strategies we're going to utilize, and why I can use a MACAB T-chart for number 1 versus other functions, other quadratic functions that you might see on a test. The key words in here are quadratic trinomial. You should be familiar with the term quadratic, and that means that the highest power in these functions that we've been working with is the power of 2. That distinguishes that these are quadratics that we're working with. Now, trinomial refers to the number of terms within the function itself. And so, if I look at number 1, I know this to be a trinomial because it has 1, 2, 3 terms. So anytime you approach, because on the test it's not going to say specifically factor this using a MACAB T-chart because it's a quadratic trinomial, you're just going to have to look at the function given and say, hey, this is the highest power of 2 and there's 3 terms, so I can utilize this MACAB T-chart strategy. Or hey, this has 2 terms, so I know it to be a quadratic binomial, so I have to use a different strategy to factor this. That's what you're going to have to get to in the test itself. Now, if I was going to, I'm going to model number 1 exactly how I want you to do it. If I was going to analyze the problem that it gives me, I would notice exactly, yes, that is the highest power is 2 and there's 1, 2, 3 terms. So that means that I can use this MACAB T-chart that I'm about to show you. So I've laid out the steps in red right here. In step 1, I'm going to take it step by step. The first step is to identify the A, B, and C terms. If you remember from previous videos and from previous learning, number 1 is written in standard form quadratic, where it's ax squared plus bx plus c, where this is the A term, the B term, and the C term. And hopefully you remember that for A, B, and C, I only care about the coefficients. I don't care about the variables, so I only care about the coefficients listed. In this case, the A term, there's no coefficient or no number listed in front of the quadratic term n squared. So I can assume then that that number, the A term, is 1. And for this number 1, if I would look at the B term, there's no number listed there either. So I can also assume that my B term is 1. And then finally my C term is a negative 12. Please remember that if it's a minus 12 or a minus a number, I have to call that number negative. I have to include that minus with that. So I have done step 1. I've identified my A, B, and C. Step 2 then. Step 2 says to use the MACAB T-chart. So I need to first set up my MACAB T-chart correctly. I'm going to use a different color. So I'm going to write Mac, draw a line, and then ab to separate the two. And then I need to draw a line below the words Mac, ab. Please leave some space between the word Mac and ab and the line, because you're going to put a number here and here. So Mac stands for multiplying the A term with the C term. Once you do that, that number goes underneath Mac. Makes pretty good sense. So the A term in this case is 1 times the C term, which is negative 12. 1 times negative 12 is negative 12. That's my Mac term. My ab term is just whatever the B term is. There's no math involved. It's just whatever the B term is. In this case, the B term is 1. So I have set up my T-chart correctly. From there, I need to find numbers that multiply to negative 12, my Mac term, and add to the B term. And this process is going to be a little tedious for some. Some of your brains might be able to jump to numbers immediately. Some might have a little bit more of a challenge with this. All I can say is that I need you to, if you're struggling with this step here, I need to see the work I'm about to do before I can answer any questions, because a lot of it's just going to be plug and chug, guess and check type stuff. I will always start with the number 1. Now, in this case, 12 divided by 1 is 12. It needs to be a negative 12 though, so 1 times 12 doesn't add up, or doesn't multiply to a negative 12, so I have to make one of them negative. In this case, it doesn't matter because no combination of 1 and 12 would add up to 1. So I know this doesn't work. Then I go down to the next number after 1. I try 2. And I can do a factor tree. This is what I'm doing. We've already practiced this skill, but 12, and then I break it down 2. 2's partner to get to 12, or 12 divided by 2 is 6. So I know that 2 and 6 are also factors of 12. I need to make one of them negative. It doesn't matter which one. But in this case, again, no combination of 2 and 6, positive or negative, would give me a positive 1. So I know that's not right either. Keep on going then. 1, 2, the next number is 3. Sometimes doing this process, a number won't go into the number I'm looking for. So I just skip that and move to the next number. But 1, 2, 3. So if I want to do a factor tree again, 12 and 3, 3 times 4 is 12. So 3 and 4 are also factors of 12. In this case, this looks a little bit more promising. 3 times 4, I need to make one of them negative. And so this is where another thought process has to come in. I need to make one negative because it has to multiply to a negative 12. But it also has to add to a positive 1. So I need to make, in this case, the 3 negative. Because negative 3 times 4 is definitely a negative 12. And then negative 3 plus 4 is a positive 1. If I made the 4 negative, it would still work. Negative 4 times 3 is a negative 12, so it would work for that, but it wouldn't work for the 1 part. Because negative 4 plus a 3 would be a negative 1. So the 3 has to be negative. So at this point, I have found the factors that I need utilizing the T-chart. So I am done with step 2. Finally, step 3 is just to write it in factored form. Now, factored form, I go back to the variable in question, which in this case, so step 3, in this case, we're working with n. So I'm going to utilize these numbers here, the negative 3 and the positive 4. The negative 3 just becomes n, and then minus 3, because it's a negative 3. And then in the second binomial, it's going to be n. The 4 is positive, so it's going to be n plus 4. And this is my final step, and that is my final answer. So I need to see in your work for the next 9 problems, step 1, step 2, step 3 written out nicely like this so I can look at it. And then step 3, if you squared in your answer, that will show me that you've done step 1, step 2, and step 3 correctly. So go ahead and try the next 9.